Okay, and we are live. Before we do any introductions, we're going to let some of our viewers show up. I can see people logging in left and right as we speak. So let's see what happens here over the course of the next couple of minutes. The good news is, Karen, I can see your eyes moving. That is a positive today. Let's see what's going on. Make sure everybody's giving us the thumbs up and it's working. Not seeing any viewers yet, so there's got to be something cooking. I am not actually seeing. Let me see what happens here. And I believe we're live. Okay, we are live. Yes, we are. Karen, I hate to say this to you, but there are 0 viewers on right now, and I don't know why. Everything is working perfectly. I can see the Hangout happening. The links are live. Everything is bright, and it's not happening yet. So bear with me. Now there's the Join Hangout button right there. Okay, here we go. They're all showing up now. As soon as Sarah showed up, everything started working. It's like magic. Good morning, dear. How are you?
I'm fine. It's lunchtime here.
I'm sorry.
Hungry.
I probably should close my door, too, because it might make you chilly. I don't see snow outside.
No.
Hey, folks, we're just getting warmed up here. We're going to get started in just... Okay, viewers are flowing in like mad right now. Okay.
We're live. Okay.
We are live. We are live, and we've got viewers flowing in, and they just keep popping in left and right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So anyhow, welcome. My name is Eric Greenspan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of schoolofbookkeeping.com. This is our Thursday morning hangout. Normally, we do marketing today. But instead, because we had a bit of a debacle last week with a technical glitch on Friday the 13th, we've invited Transaction Pro back again so that they can actually do their demo. We have Karen Magno with us, and she is going to take you through a very cool demonstration of the product. This has been the most popular hangout we have ever had. Viewers are flowing in. I can still see them counting up. This is awesome. I'm going to talk for 30 more seconds so that more people can show up before we turn it over to Karen. So I don't know if you guys have noticed, but on the schoolofbookkeeping.com website, we have a new piece at the top where it talks about Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours of practice. It's kind of our MO at schoolofbookkeeping.com, and the reason why we have Karen Magno from Transaction Pro with us here today is we all want to master our skills and become great at what we do, and as Malcolm says, 10,000 hours will get you there. Clearly, Seth David has achieved the 10,000 hours. That's why he's so extraordinary. We want to help you do the same. So while this is not much more than an hour to add to that, we're going to add 1 hour to your 10,000 today to help you learn about this awesome product, Transaction Pro, which everybody seems to use. We also are very excited about the fact that we launched Transaction Pro as a course. It's available to enrolled paid students only. Please check it out. Okay, we got plenty of folks on, so it's time for me to close my mouth and turn it over to Transaction Pro's Karen Magno. Karen, please.
Okay, thank you everyone for attending again. I apologize about last Friday. To start off last Friday, I ended up getting locked in the dog park for 40 minutes with my dog because the gate was busted. And of course I didn't have my cell phone with me, so I couldn't call anyone, so I just had to scream until someone came and let me out. So that started my day, and then I had computer issues, so it was definitely Friday the 13th, so I'm glad that was over. But I also wanted to put a marketing spin on this as well, because I know we have a lot of accountants and bookkeepers in here and consultants. And a lot of people think of our tool initially as a bookkeeping tool, but it's much more. If you went out and took a look at Too Legit to Audit, Seth David had a great post about how he imported inventory assemblies for someone and basically went to Las Vegas, and I think he was paid something, several $1,000s. And so basically, it's a great way for you to grow your consulting practice. You can charge much more per hour than you can I would think, for bookkeeping. And then it's also a lot more enjoyable because I really enjoyed Seth David's most recent set of videos on PayPal because there's more than one way to skin a cat. And so the bookkeepers, business owners, consultants can definitely add a lot of value because you can provide, what your opinions are. Do they need to track the details? Do they need to set up sales tax? We have clients that rely on our tool every day. I can give you an example of one that is still a client of mine, and he sells something called snoosies, and they're basically like little slipper socks that you put on your feet. And he sells them all throughout the U.S., and he also recently opened up a branch in Canada. And he uses our tool every single day to download orders from his, they call it like network channels, and he downloads orders every single day and includes the credit card information, which is encrypted. And then what he does is he imports them in as sales orders. And then what he does is he takes a look at his fulfillment centers, and then he figures out which ones that he's going to ship. And so it's a tool that he uses every day. And he will call me from time to time. And if I was doing this on a recurring basis, what I would do is I would put him on a retainer and say, you're going to pay me X amount of dollars per quarter, and you'll get a call back within a certain period of time. Or you have other situations where you can set it up where you'll set up the imports, your clients will do it on an ongoing basis, and then you'll set up a quarterly appointment with them to review their reports in QuickBooks, whether it be their sales tax reports, their customer reports, etc. And it's just a different venue than just looking at the tool as being bookkeeping, and your business owners will really appreciate it because it really cuts down on the amount of time that they spend day-to-day importing. So I'm going to turn on my screen. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Okay. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is we're going to demonstrate the desktop importer first. And what you want to do is you want to open up the QuickBooks company file that you want to import into first. And so in this case, I'm using the desktop edition, QuickBooks 2015. And then I'm going to show you, this is my sample import file. Basically what this is this is a skinny down version of a sales receipt from PayPal that Seth goes into in more detail on his videos. But basically you can see there's 5 orders on here, and we actually use PayPal in our business, and we sell through PayPal, and you can see we have the importer and the exporter here. And in PayPal you have a gross and a net and a fee. And so I'm going to show you how it's very easy, even though they're in columns, to import that data into QuickBooks. I just want to make sure, is everyone seeing my screen okay?
It looks like we just lost it. We see your face now.
Okay, great. I'm just going to go back to the screen share. Okay. So what you do, and it's this, once you get one import type down, it's the same for every single transaction type. And so basically you have the ability to import a file, whether it be an Excel, CSV, or a text file. You also have the ability to import database files, which is like a SQL database. You can communicate directly to a SQL database, as well as you have the ability to talk directly to Access. So I know Seth uses Excel all the time, but there's some people out there that feel much more comfortable manipulating data in Access. And so a good example of that is if you have 2 different tables, say from a Volusion website, you have your order header in one file and the order detail in another. you can write a one-time, one-time macro in Access to do that. So basically what I'm going to show you here is the first import that we're going to do is we're going to do a PayPal import. So I'm going to browse for the file, and in this case it's a CSV file. And so you can see in the middle here, because it's not an Excel file, you can select a tab, comma, or pipe delimited file. Oftentimes the orders that are coming from websites are tab delimited. Okay? And then down here is all the different transaction types that we support. Anything from bank statements to checks, credit card statements, deposits, inventory adjustments, which were very popular at the beginning of the year, journal entries, sales orders, sales receipts, vendor credits, and then we have all the different lists down here. A very common import that people do all the time are price levels, because they are very cumbersome to update an existing price level list in QuickBooks. And we support both the per item as well as a percentage. Whereas in QuickBooks, you can do an import, but you can only do a percentage import. So in this case, I'm going to select sales receipt. And then this is where all the power comes in. We have various options here. And we have 3 different tabs. Basic is where most people are going to be most of the time. In this case, we have the ability to enable credit card fields for that gentleman that was bringing in credit card information on sales orders. You can do customer cross-references, which I'm going to have a demo on that later. You can let QuickBooks auto-assign your sales receipt numbers. If you're worried about, say for instance, you're worried about the other database that you're pulling from doesn't match QuickBooks, you can tell Transaction Pro, I don't want to add new customers, I don't want to add any new items. And that's good oftentimes when you're starting. Okay, so that's oftentimes good when you're first starting out. And then we have the Advanced tab, which we have custom fields supported. For General Ledger, we have a cross-reference for that as well. If you're bringing data in from another system, sometimes the accounts don't match up. We have an out of balance. And then in this case, we're going to select e-commerce. And this is very powerful. So basically, when we select e-commerce, what happens is we add additional fields for shipping, handling, discount, and sales tax. And then in this case, because our items are in columns instead of in rows, we're going to say that our items are in columns. And then you can select Save. Okay. And then you're going to select the Next button. This here you can view in a larger grid. And I love this because of the fact it gives you a gut check to make sure that you pulled the right data file. If you have dates in here that are dated 2013, maybe perhaps you pulled the wrong Excel file. And so you can see this is, someone had a question on ABO about what a flat file is, and I'll pull it up here as well. And basically, we do not require a header row. You may or may not have a header row, and you can see all your raw data is just in columns. And that's what a flat file is. Okay, so here's your data within the Transaction Pro importer. You can actually edit. I'm not going to do it here, but you can actually change information in each of these cells here if you wanted to. I'm going to select the Next button. And I've actually gone through and I've done the mapping for this. But what you want to do is you can see the Excel file over here. And then what you can do is in the drop-down, you select, see how in row 1 it has a header? You can see in the drop-down all the different headers. And you just select the one that you want. We also have the ability to put in a static value. So in this case, it's not in the import file, but I want to specify that the payment method was PayPal, and you can just type that in. We also do support simple formulas. So very common thing is oftentimes the first name and last name are in 2 different cells in the Excel file, and you can do like a concatenate feature in Excel right within this place right here. And so what you do is if you press the Help button, there's information on how to do those simple formulas. Any field that's highlighted in red is required at a minimum. And you can see there's a ton of fields that are supported on the sales receipt. We have not included all of them because they're not in our import file. And this is because our items are in columns, you can see the gross amount is in one column, so that's why I've mapped the price here. And then I've actually mapped the item column here. And you'll see this a little bit better when I hit the next button. And then I'm saying here I want all the information in the fee column, which is down here. I always want it to go to the static item PayPal fees, within QuickBooks. And you can see you have the ability, I think it's like 15 different columns, if you have 15 different columns in your import file. Also supports sales tax code and sales tax items as well. You can have as many maps as you need to. So I'm going to select the next button. And what we do is when we hit that next button on the mapping screen, we validate all the data. So I don't know if you've ever done other sorts of imports, but it's really frustrating when you have to wait for the whole file to import and find out that you mapped a date, to a, mapped an incorrect value to a date field, etc. So we're checking for the data types. We're checking for all the required fields. And this is the most important screen in the whole importer. It basically shows you how your data is going to be mapped to the QuickBooks fields. So you can see all the fields listed across the top. And I'm going to scroll over, and this is the actual data from the import file. So it looks correct to me. You can see the date, the customer. Oops, so back a little bit. And here you can see, so on each of these sales receipts, I'm going to have an item with a price, and then the second line item is going to be PayPal fees. And here's the actual amount. So this is the most, if you're training anyone or if you're doing this yourself, to me this is where you spend your time to make sure they did the mapping correctly. I'm going to hit the next button. And then what happens here is if you are using discounts, what happens is in e-commerce export, oftentimes the discounts, the taxes, the shipping and handling are in separate columns. And so what this does is you would map the columns, and then you would tell Transaction Pro, anything that's mapped to a discount, I want to go to to this item into this account. But in this case, we're not using that. I'm going to select the next button. And what happens is within Transaction Pro Importer, if you are using items on your transactions, in this case we are, Transaction Pro has the ability to set up the new items in QuickBooks. And so what you can do is you can select whatever that you want, on this last screen to say, if I don't find a matching item, this is how I want the new items to be created. So you can select whatever item type that you want, and then you can select the account and the sales tax code. And what happens is this box is checked by default, save all settings. And what happens is all your mappings and settings will be retained. So you do it's one time, and that'll be there for the for the rest of it. So I'm going to select the Finish button, and I'm going to start the sales receipt transfer to QuickBooks. And so there's 5 sales receipts in here. And so let me go into QuickBooks. And what happens is, like I said, Transaction Pro will create the customers, will create the vendors. So depending upon, if the customers exist, or if the customers don't exist, if the items don't exist, it can take a little bit longer because we're creating all these customers and items. And this is your transfer log. It's like your audit log. And if for some reason something did not import, in the status column, it'll indicate line by line why something didn't import. So I want to go into this Jane Doe. What's nice is QuickBooks puts it all at the top. And what you can see here is you have 2 line items. One that is the actual product that we sold, and then you can see here that there are PayPal fees associated with it. And you can see here we didn't use the auto assign, but you can see the sale number, and then you can see that it was paid by PayPal. Okay, I have a couple other things I want to demonstrate, but I wanted to see if anyone had any questions on what I've shown thus far.
On that example that you just showed us, is
Yeah.
there anything in the manual that says how to set it up to do that example, or?
Yep. What you can do is we have a blog.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and let's see.
Because I may be able to use just that import, but I'm going to have to watch the webinar again to
We have
exactly how you did that.
Let me share my screen again.
You know, there's a great course on schoolofbookkeeping.com. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen again.
Because I got a little confused over how you got the PayPal to work, the fees.
Okay, let me show you here. Okay, the best bet is to go to our blog, blog.basestateconsulting.com or blog.transactionpro.com. And what you want to do is in the title bar, you want to mouse over the how-to, and then in the drop-down, you'll see all the different transaction types, and then you can learn what the options do. So in this case, I use the e-commerce features, which is that last tab.
Mm-hmm.
So you can select that within the blog. My blog's getting too big. I keep getting out of memory errors, so hopefully it will pull up for me. So you can see here, invoice sales orders and sales receipt imports into QuickBooks e-commerce features. And so we have an detailed article. We have an article on all the different options, as well as we have an article on every single import type. So you can see this is what we went through right here.
Super.
So,
Hey, Karen, we have a viewer is asking a question via email. The question is, does the spreadsheet need to be in the same order as the mapping?
not at all. That's what I love about this tool is, just to give people my background and date myself, I used to work for Ernst & Young as an auditor for a couple of years through the manager level, and then I worked with more enterprise forms of software before I came to QuickBooks. And even with those very enterprise forms of software, with the imports, we had to spend so much time formatting the file, just like an IAF where the columns had to be in a certain order, the header always had to be the same. So what this tool is, that mapping engine is so powerful. I can give you a good example. We work a lot with Concur. They have a lot of very sophisticated clients that their standard connector does not work for them. And so their file actually has 256 columns in it. And they actually do not have a header row. And so what we do is the clients go through and they select, okay, I want the data in column number 56 to go to the customer, or to whatever it is. So it makes it much more flexible, and you can also have multiple maps. So if you have multiple sales channels, and this is actually on our blog as well, most people, and there's a lot of School of Bookkeeping and ABO members that are using our tool that have had questions about this. You can have a map for PayPal. You can have a map for Amazon. You can have a map for eBay. You can have as many maps as you want. So, have your clients bring their files onto you. They can be in any format. The other thing that I've seen some bookkeeping firms do is within our Transaction Pro importer, when you install the product, you get sample import files. And so what some people will do is they'll say, for instance, they want their clients to send them the check information for the year. And so what they'll do is they'll send the template out that gets installed. It's in My Documents 01 Transaction Pro Importer 5.0. And you can send that file off to your clients. Just prep it, maybe remove a couple columns, and then you just tell your client, you need to fill this information out for me every month, and then I'll import it into QuickBooks for you. So that's another option.
That's another interesting question for me, obviously, selfishly, for schoolofbookkeeping.com students. Is it possible to get these types of templates that might be available to the students, at least?
Let me show you where it is. We have a couple. We've been around for a while. And so we started out with a very basic forum, and now we've actually migrated to a support ticketing type system. And so if you go to our support portal, which is support.transactionpro.com, can tell this is a new computer because...
I was going to say, you must have just cleared your browsing history because I never have to finish typing anything.
All right, so you can see here, these are the most popular articles at the top. And then these are the most recent Knowledgebase articles that we've written. And so if you come over here to Knowledgebase, you can search it. And you can see, you can do a search for sample. And right here, sample import files and maps. And so you can download, the sample import files right from our Knowledgebase. It's also within the product, but if you don't have the product, you can also come here to get that. And let me see if I can paste it into chat.
Are there any of those that might be unique or special or could be additionally added that might be something we can discuss for the future, or do you pretty much have it covered?
What we could do is we could add, like PayPal. We could add specific, templates that are in there with the actual mappings. So we could do that.
I'd love to talk more about that.
Okay.
Folks, if you have any questions and you're not able to ask them because you're not actually inside the Hangout, feel free to email tutor@schoolofbookkeeping.com, TUTOR, and I will gladly ask those questions on your behalf.
Okay. So do you want to take a look at some more of the advanced features within Transaction Pro Importer? I can do another import to show you some of the other features to give you an idea. So, what the next thing that I was planning on doing is I am going to do a invoice import, and what I'm going to do is we're going to use the cross-reference feature. Oftentimes, what happens is when you, if you're importing from another system, in QuickBooks, oftentimes my name in QuickBooks might be set up as Magno, Karen. But in the shopping cart that I'm downloading from, it might be Karen L. Magno. We all know in QuickBooks that'll create two different customers if you just import it as is.
Right.
And so what a lot of people will do instead is what they'll do is they will import by what we call a customer account number. And so you can see here, this is a sample invoice file, and these are the customer numbers, and I'll show you in a minute where they reside in QuickBooks. And then, here, are a few invoices here that we're going to import. So I want to show you in QuickBooks where you store that. So if you're in, so we'll edit this customer here. This one doesn't have a customer account number. But if you were going to store a customer account number, you would store it under payment settings in this account number field. And what you can do too is if this is the first time that you're setting it up, you can do a customer list import using the Transaction Pro Importer, and what you can do is you can import the customer list with just the name and the account number. Our tool has the ability to update existing lists in QuickBooks as well. So that's a very popular thing. Okay. So basically, here's the Excel file again. Oops. So you can see there's no names in here whatsoever. So you can save this log, but I'm not going to save it. You can close it. And then what's going to happen here is I'm going to browse for this invoice customer cross-reference file. Okay? And in this case, I don't have any drop-downs because of the fact that it is an Excel file. But if I did have multiple sheets, I can select which sheet I want to import from. So in this case, it's going to be an invoice. Okay, I'm going to go to Options, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect the e-commerce because I don't need that because I'm doing a straight invoice import, and I'm going to come back to the Basic tab, and what I'm going to say here is going to say look up customer name in QuickBooks when the account number is mapped to the customer field. This is a tip. If you don't understand what these options are, don't check them because oftentimes it'll result in an error. So what you can do is if you do have any questions, if you press the Help buttons, you can go to the Help file.
Nice.
And you can see over here, it's also on our blog as well. So like you can see here, Program Options, and then the Basic Options tab, you can see the customer account number. And I will tell you that's the #1 support. And people will check things, and I'm going to show you an example of this happening. we'll see people that will have names in their import file, not account numbers. And what they'll do is they'll check this option, and then they get an error message because of the fact that we can't find a matching account number because they've mapped account names. So,
hey, Karen, let's make sure Seth is aware of that, because that sounds like a great little add-on lesson for the course.
Sure.
If that's your biggest support issue, we want to make sure people can learn that. I have another question for you when you're ready as well.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
This one's from the same person, and I got another one after that. This one says, as an advanced ProAdvisor, is a discount available to have clients have their own license to be able to work with them remotely?
Yes, what would happen is you would you or your client purchase the license, install it on their computer. The way the SDK works, which is what this tool is written on, the Intuit SDK, is the QuickBooks software needs to be installed on the same computer. And so what you could do is you can install Transaction Pro Importer on the same machine as the QuickBooks software is, and then you can remote desktop into your client's machine. You'd open up QuickBooks, point to the company file up on the server, say, and then start the Transaction Pro Importer. If it's a one-time import, we do have what we call internet-based activation, and so you can activate and deactivate machines as needed. So I've had clients in the past where they'll only allow me to do work on site. And so what I've done is, if it's been a one-time thing, I'll take the Transaction Pro Importer with me, deactivate the license. I go to the client, install the software. I can deactivate my office computer, and then I can just activate my client's computer temporarily. So, so that's available, but only one computer can be activated at a time. So if it's something your client's going to be using all the time, they should really have their own license.
Okay, so they can use a single license to activate, deactivate, as long as it's only being used at one time. If the client's going to use it on their own, which we don't necessarily want them to do, then they would buy their own license. And I should mention here that schoolofbookkeeping.com students get, I'll let you tell them, actually.
Yeah. Our lowest, or our richest discount off of our website is 10%. And that's after someone they sign up as an affiliate, and what happens is they purchase the first license at full price, and then any subsequent licenses, they're entitled to a 10% royalty or commission. And so that's the highest, discount that we have. The School of Bookkeeping, we have such confidence in all of you, and that you're going to, use this tool to its fullest, and so we're offering you a 20% discount, and that's on, single license purchases, and it's not to be combined with any other offer. We have some bundled packages, on our website, and those aren't eligible for the 20% discount because they've already got some substantial discounts within them. But say, for instance, you wanted to purchase a desktop license of Transaction Pro Importer, it's a one-time fee. You can use it with unlimited number of QuickBooks company files, 2003 through 2015, Pro, Premier, and Enterprise. And it's a one-time fee, only $199.95. Just School of Bookkeeping numbers, you save $40 off that price, so it's about $160.
I have a question.
That's awesome. Thank you, Karen.
I have a question. In a prior life, I worked primarily with access to databases, and I could see where possibly, like on e-commerce, where I may want to combine information from a couple of tables and maybe do some formulas in a query. Can you import a access query, or does it have to be converted to a table? Or
it has to be converted to a table.
Pardon me?
It has to be converted to a table.
Or sent to Excel?
Right.
Okay, so it can't import the data from a query then.
That's correct. You have to create a table from the query.
Okay.
Karen, I have more questions for you. You already alluded to this in your last answer. Tell us a little bit more about the affiliate program. You do have one, because I have someone here who I think was in it, but I don't necessarily know if it was working for them or something. Maybe just kind of give us some insight into that.
The way that it works is we have, email us at sales@transactionpro.com. But the easiest way to accomplish it is you set up a unique URL that you send it's on your website, and you send your users to that link to purchase the software. What happens is that sets an identifier in our orders database that says, okay, let's say it's SOB, and and so the URL is going to be something like transactionpro.com/SOB or something like that, but it'll be on your website. And so what happens is every single time someone goes to that link, and comes to our website and ends up purchasing, it's reflected in our orders database, and that's how we determine, how to pay out the commissions. And the cookie is remembered for a full year. So if you tell someone, last month to go and look at it, and then they wait for 6 months, and they end up purchasing, it's going to show up under your affiliate link.
So just to make that clear, technically, when you create the URL, so in our case, first of all, let me say, School of Bookkeeping does not accept any kind of commissions. We pass those back to our students. So instead of you paying us, we're giving that extra 10% back to you. That's how the 20% works. But so everybody understands what Karen's saying is, if you have abcaccounting.com, you would put a / Transaction Pro, for example, right? And then they could, if they have the link from there, you'll know who they are by their URL, and you will pay them their affiliate commission, which is how much?
It's 10%.
Perfect. Okay, that's awesome. Thank you very much. I have two more. So, and this one, I think the answer has already been addressed, but let's ask it. How does this work with hosting environments, in-sync, Right Networks, etc.?
Okay. With Right Networks, we're on their shared hosting. And what they do is they offer our software on a subscription basis for $25 per month. Now, the server edition of our license is $500. Okay, so that's more than the desktop license. And what happens is when you're in the shared environment, you never have to pay for any upgrades. If we come out with a new version, Right Networks will automatically install it. We won't have to pay any additional fees. And they're great because they actually vet all their software, so you don't have to worry about whether it be QuickBooks or our products. They have it in a beta environment before they'll even install any upgrades or something like that. With other hosting companies, as long as you're on your own virtual machine and not in shared hosting, what you can do is you can purchase our server edition, which is called the Terminal Services License, and that allows for up to 10 users. And you install it on your server, and you can use it with an unlimited number of QuickBooks company files. And if you change the hosting company, or if you decide to bring the hosting back in-house, that license will install on either a desktop or a server. So it gives you, ultimate flexibility.
That is awesome. It's interesting. We're trying to get Right Networks to launch a course, and I hope they're listening, because that is really cool to hear. We will do that course with integration and demos with Transaction Pro. Last question I have right now, and then I have a feeling Dennis has got one. Let's see. Why do we have to use a third-party tool when QuickBooks Online can import PayPal transactions? And I know the answer to this one, because it doesn't work really well, but go ahead, tell us. Tell us how yours does.
Let me give you a couple of examples. What happens is a lot of companies that have integrations, whether they be expense reporting apps, whether it be time tracking apps, etc., what happens is they do their mapping one way, and that's it. So if you have a circumstance like Seth does, where his file might be a little different because he sells on eJunkie and there's not items in there, it might not work for him. So either.
I think part of the problem we actually have is we have to deal with, and I don't think QBO does this right. I hear Seth talk about this all the time. Is when we import from PayPal, and we do a lot because all of our students pay that way.
Yeah.
He can't separate the PayPal fees from the actual amounts, the net amount, and while you can manage that, it's a pain in the neck if you've got a lot of transactions. Transaction Pro addresses that?
Yes, it does. So what happens is in the importer for QuickBooks Online, we have 2 additional fields that you can map the PayPal fees and the PayPal item to.
Yeah, it saved us a ton of time and made Seth a much happier person, because you don't want Seth to be grumpy. It's not a good day.
And I hate to say it, but fees are so important, because we've worked with a couple different shopping carts over the years, and you really, PayPal's straightforward, but a lot of them, you don't really know what your fees are until you get your reconciliation at the end of the month and see all the fees that you pay. So it is an important part to be tracking that with whatever shopping cart that you have.
Awesome. Let me say once again, folks, I'm taking questions at tutor@schoolofbookkeeping.com. Please email me your questions for Karen, and I will ask them on the Hangout, and I'm absolutely certain Dennis Thompson has a question now.
Okay. The QBO from QuickBooks Desktop to QBO conversion is kind of problematic sometimes. Would an alternative be to use the Transaction Pro Exporter for desktop and combine that with the importer for QBO as a different way of doing it?
Yes, you can. I mean, the QuickBooks Online API is constantly evolving. Not every single transaction type is yet supported, but the vast majority of them are. So we actually had a lot of Canadian users before they came out with their before Intuit came out with a conversion tool that used our tool to do that. But we've seen some people do that as well, because some of the transactions don't come over correctly, and so in some cases it does make sense to do it as more of a two-step process.
Maybe you could expand on the use of the exporter for the desktop. When would you use it?
Okay. We actually have an article on our blog as well, so you can refer back to that. But basically, the most common use of the Transaction Pro Exporter is if your clients are using EDI or they're using third-party fulfillment center. What happens is these companies want orders in an electronic format, and they want the file in a certain format, certain columns, in a certain order, and with all the details. And oftentimes to do that in QuickBooks over and over again is very time-consuming and is error-prone. We also have the ability to add default values, so it's a lot more flexible. And so what will happen is we have customers that will send orders over to their fulfillment center or their EDI on a daily basis, and that's what the companies use to ship. And then another common thing is if you have any other application that you need to get the data into, whether it be QuickBooks Online, whether it be an online ACH type, concern. Another thing that I did recently is if your clients use Positive Pay, the banks require a very specific format to be uploaded to the bank to work with Positive Pay. And so I actually have a blog post on how to export Positive Pay files. So, just think of it, if you need to we actually have tax accountants that use our exporter instead of QuickBooks because we have a lot more filtering capability. So you can say, I only want to see this class, I only want to see this account. And so it just gives you a lot more slicing and dicing capability than you might have within QuickBooks Desktop.
Okay, and also, what's the difference between the Transaction Pro Importer and the QuickBooks Batch transaction? I was using that the other day with a colleague, basically with the CSV file, massaging the CSV file and then importing it into QuickBooks using the Batch transaction importer.
There's a huge difference. I mean, Transaction Pro creates the customers, the items. It will, work with the sales tax, that's set up already on the customer. You can have split lines. You can use the customer account cross-reference. You can, there's just it's so much more automated, than using the batch entry transactions. I mean, for some companies it works, but if you have any advanced requirements, it's not all the fields are supported. I don't know if they've added custom fields yet, but the last time I looked, they weren't supported. So it's just a lot. There's just a lot more capability within our tool.
I think the best way to sum it up, and I deal with madness every day with WordPress, from our content protection tool, bringing the data from the vital data into WordPress and matching and mapping and syncing. And by the way, it would be really cool if there was a Transaction Pro for WordPress. But in general, I think what Transaction Pro does is it tackles a very, very challenging part of life when importing and exporting data. And it requires a focused product from a company rather than it just being a feature as part of something else. QuickBooks is obviously designed for accounting, and they're never going to put the muscle or dollars behind the importing and exporting that someone like Transaction Pro can do. Now that brings me to another question. It's always awesome. We just landed Bill.com as a course for schoolofbookkeeping.com, and their representative, Darcy Robson, just commented, great hangout, but she had to leave early. She apologized for that. That makes me think of this question. What other app partners, not necessarily the ones that are on schoolofbookkeeping.com, but clearly those are we obviously are working with the most popular and most useful. What other app partners would take advantage of Transaction Pro and benefit from it in collusion, so to speak?
Oh, there's a lot of them. And by the way, we love Bill.com.
Yeah, so do we.
That pays us, and it's made us happy. I mean, I mean, I used to have to go to we have a P.O. box, I used to go pick up the check, then I used to have to deposit it. It was such a pain in the neck. And then I never used to know where in the approval process we were. And I mean, I feel much more comfortable dealing with vendors that use Bill.com because I know I'm going to get paid, and I know that they've received the bill, etc. So if you haven't looked at Bill.com, I think it's a great product.
I think one of the coolest things about Bill.com is it's kind of like a text message when they have the read on, where you know somebody read the message. With Bill.com, you can tell if people are actually paying attention to your invoices. That's awesome.
Exactly. And you know, any app partner. I mean, companies should focus on what they're good at. And you know, the QuickBooks SDK, the QuickBooks API, has gotten better over the years, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot of knowledge. And so for some companies, you know, they just refer their clients to us and say, you know, okay, we don't have a straight integration to QuickBooks. You know, however, you know, you can contact Transaction Pro and, you know, purchase their tool. In some cases, we have maps that are up on our actual website that they can use, you know, with that particular app partner's, you know, export file. So it's, you know, either the app partner, you know, there's only so many things that you can be good at. And so, you know, there's a lot of app partners that'll use us, or there's other app partners that have a very basic integration with QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online, but they have clients that have unique needs. So they refer those clients to us to actually, you know, to do the import.
Ah, interesting. Diane Gilson just asked, just had someone contact me who has to do a very detailed reporting on tobacco sales. If I don't want to fiddle around with this very complex scenario, can we get someone at Baystate/Transaction Pro to act as a consultant on this?
Oh, good question.
We actually prefer, we have a partner list, and we're more than happy, you know, to help, you know, anyone. But we also do have a network of partners that use Transaction Pro in their consulting business. And what happens is, you know, if it's a 1 or 2 hour thing, you know, I will log in, you know, or someone else on my staff will log in. But if it's going to be a longer consulting engagement, you know, we just don't have, that's not our focus. And so we have this partner page where these are QuickBooks Certified Pro Advisors. They've been using our tools, and you know, we'll just say to them, go look at any of these partners on our website, and you know, they'll be able to help you, you know, get your project done. Because I do have a lot of QuickBooks knowledge, and well, our staff do, but I've kind of moved away from it more in the past couple of years. So if you get into issues like taxation or inventory, you know, you're much better off dealing with, you know, some of these very great consultants here, you know, that are part of this panel today, because you know, they're going to be able to help you soup to nuts.
Okay, I've got a bunch of questions flowing in, and that was awesome. I do appreciate that. And by the way, do not call Seth David at Nerd Enterprises to help you with Transaction Pro. He is far too busy as an SOB. Sorry, Seth. Here's another one. So asking, please clarify, if we purchase TPI through School of Bookkeeping, we receive a 20% discount on our license. If we offer TPI to our clients via our affiliate URL, we receive 10% commission, and they pay full price or discounted as well.
Oh,
that seems to make sense.
They pay full price, and at the end of the quarter, we give you a commission check, and it's up to you if you want to, you know, if you want to pass that commission along to your client, if you want to retain it.
Okay, so just to clarify, you get one license from schoolofbookkeeping.com for yourself at a 20% savings. You can sell the heck out of it to your clients at full price and earn 10% affiliate commission. That is the rule.
Tons of consulting dollars too. I mean, I will tell you that most of the companies that find us have found us on Google search. They've gone out to Costco, bought QuickBooks off the shelf, and a couple times I've logged in to do some very simple mapping, and basically I've refunded them for their tech support, because I've told them, you need to go to one of our partners, you need to buy the right version of QuickBooks. In some cases, they bought the lowest version. That's not the right version. You need to set up your inventory. You need to set up your sales tax. And so often cases, those are the types of clients we see, and those are the ones that turn out to be great consulting opportunities. So post up something on your blog. Say you do imports. They'll find you. Trust me.
Here's another one. These are awesome questions. These are all the companies that we're working with at School of Bookkeeping, too. Clearly, we're picking the ones that people love. Please ask Karen if this can be used with LivePlan from a QB desktop file so we can still function when Sync Manager goes away?
As long as LivePlan can provide you with an export, whether it be an Excel, CSV, or text file, you can definitely use the Transaction Pro importer to import those transactions into QuickBooks. And if you have a sample file and you want to send it off to me, just send it to sales@transactionpro.com or Karen@transactionpro.com, and just indicate what the transaction type is, whether it's an invoice or a journal entry, and I can take a look at it for you and let you know if that format's going to work.
Awesome. Do they charge to list you as a? Do they still charge to list you as a partner? Is there a fee to be a partner on your site?
There is, and if you do, just email. You can go to the partner page, and there's an email at the bottom, and then just send us an email. We'll send you all the details.
Perfect. So the answer is yes, but we're not going to disclose that here. Okay. Another question says, I have a client I'm seeing this afternoon. I think that's pretty much all of us, right? That has been running purchases, inventory transactions through one company file, which really belonged to another file, to manage the inventory and customer detail. My thought was to filter and export those specific transactions and then import them into the correct company file. Any landmines that I should be aware of?
I would first of all use our Transaction Pro exporter, because then you're going to get the data out in the right format. We also offer advanced filtering within our tool as well. And then what you can do is you can take that file with the Transaction Pro importer, and then we actually have maps that are already predefined because we know how the data is coming out with our exporter, and you can import those into the new company file. One thing that could be a landmine is if they're using a different chart of accounts between the two systems, if they're using a different naming convention, it's on the list. And so what I would suggest is within our Transaction Pro importer on the basic option tab, we have options to not add new accounts, not add new vendors. So in case there is a mix match between the two companies, that'll catch.
And this is not meant to compete with you in any way, Karen, because we are the best of friends and great partners, but I'm going to add an option for School of Bookkeeping Student Business Directory listings as a Transaction Pro. I think that's a great one. Sounds like there's a lot of need out there. And I also want to say to everybody, yeah, it is a complicated tool for a reason. It's a complicated process, and that's the beauty of it. And for those of you that are looking to expand your practice, what a great thing to learn, because it's very cutting edge, it's very needed, and there's a lot of billable hours out there available to you. I'm a big fan of this product in a lot of ways. Thank you, Karen. We've got 8 minutes left. I've got questions pouring in here, but I want to go to our audience online here. Sarah, Dennis, Larry, anybody have a question?
We've got one more question. Have you thought about doing something with Xero, or is that a bridge too far in terms of your focus?
Not at this point. The QuickBooks API is continually evolving. We've been through 4 reiterations of the QuickBooks API, and they're continually adding. So, right now we want to focus on getting, staying caught up with QuickBooks. It's great because they're continually making changes to the platform, but right now we don't have the bandwidth to do it.
Wow. And we're also partnered with Xero and Sage. I'm going to ask you that same question. At some point, Karen, TPI is going to have to support everybody. We'd love to see you do that and still get some sleep at night. But regardless of that, obviously most of our users are using QuickBooks, and that's awesome. So we really appreciate the fact that you do stay up on it and keep the product evolving constantly. Larry, you jumped on screen. Do you have a question?
No question. Just wanted to thank Karen for such a great presentation. And like anything this complicated, it's kind of like the first step. And I guess we need to go to School of Bookkeeping to take the class.
Well,
Thank you, Larry.
Let me tell you, the vast majority of our clients are small business owners that don't have an IT department. We've built this as a wizard. Okay, for a lot of clients, it's a very simple mapping where, they're just downloading a file, they're mapping a few fields, and then they push the data into QuickBooks. So, for some of our clients, it's easy for them, they can get it done. But for something like a PayPal, or, maybe if you're trying to integrate with EDI platforms, oftentimes, they need someone like you guys, to help get them. But I mean, what I would do is, we have a free trial, just so you know, the free trial of our importer. You can use it with any QuickBooks company file. The only limitation is we use a random transaction date when you import. To make a copy of your live QuickBooks database, install the trial Transaction Pro importer. We have sample import files in there for every single transaction type. You can do the imports, take a look at the maps, do as many imports as you want, get familiar with them, and that's the best way to start. Is start simple and then branch out from there.
I would say it'd be a good idea to have a basic knowledge of a database like Access, and also become proficient in Excel, because that's what I was doing. I was scrubbing Excel files and to put them in text to columns and then stick them in an Access database. And so it's really helpful to understand the database concepts, because you're working with that with the Transaction Pro. You're going to be a consultant, I'd say.
And one other thing I want to show, as a consultant, we have a full command line. Someone had asked this question on Abo. This is only with QuickBooks Desktop, but we have a full command line parameter. And so what that means is you can automate the imports. You still have to somehow get the file down, as Seth had alluded to, from the e-commerce shopping site. So, but a lot of these e-commerce shopping sites have APIs, and so you can write an API, write some sort of a call to dump the file down to your computer, and then you could script it with the Transaction Pro importer to say, okay, I want you to go and look for a file in this directory every day at 11 o'clock and run the import. Or you can just create a shortcut in your desktop if you have a less uneducated user that you're nervous about not paying attention. You could create a shortcut on your desktop with a batch file behind it, and then just double click on it, and it actually goes through and will do the import for you.
Awesome, awesome. Jamie Siglin, who's been asking a lot of the questions over here on my email, wanted to say thank you to you, Karen. So I wanted to share that.
And I wanted to say I love your new website, Karen.
Thank you.
Yeah, and a
We
beautiful.
all love you, Karen. That's just a fact. I mean, this product has been great for us, and you've been wonderful. Karen always responds on Abo. For those of you that don't know what Abo is, it's accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners. It's a vivacious, ferocious, spam-free group of accounting pros on Facebook. There's nothing like it. I took a break this week for a day, and people told me that there's no way I'd stay out of Abo, and I made it till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I just couldn't stay away. Anyhow, we've got 3 minutes left, and I'm going to, there's one more question here I think I have. It says, I'm not completely understanding, it says, maybe this will make sense to you, Karen, TPI is sync different than the interface TPI uses with QB? Does that make sense?
Well, we don't. There's a couple different platforms. If we're talking about QuickBooks Desktop, someone alluded to LivePlan. For a period of time, had what they call the Sync Manager, and so that's going away. So everyone's going to have to use the QuickBooks SDK, which is what our Transaction Pro Importer 5.0 uses with the desktop version of QuickBooks. It is an installable product. For QuickBooks Online, we're required to have a SaaS-based application that's web-based. And that is available. What I like about it, it's available to you on any computer, wherever you are, just like you go, and you can import, from, and that's called the QuickBooks API. And so that's a different developer tool than the QuickBooks SDK. Does that answer it?
It must be exhausting being you, keeping up with all the changes and all the different players. Maybe you need to just stay focused on this. It's a remarkable thing that you do and the way you do it. And I can just tell you, I mean, I was on the way back from LAX. I got a headache from the call. Seth was just going off about, well, we just launched Transaction Pro. Dude, did you know it does this and that and so on and so forth? I had no idea. I mean, it's really simplified his life and us as a company. So we thank you for that. Diane Gilson also said thank you for answering several of her questions.
Me many times.
Awesome. Karen Magno, you're a rock star, and this product is fantastic, and we really, really appreciate you coming back after our Friday the 13th mishap. You had a huge audience today. Folks, we are going to, as always, post this in the schoolofbookkeeping.com YouTube channel. You can find that at schoolofbookkeeping.com. Down at the bottom right, you can click to subscribe, and you will absolutely enjoy this replay and all the other ones that are on there. And Karen Magno will be in Abo from time to time, so if you have additional questions for her, you can ask them there. Get over to schoolofbookkeeping.com and enroll and watch the course. Save 20% on Transaction Pro for you. Make sure you sign up as an affiliate partner with Transaction Pro so you can earn 10%. Anybody else have a last-minute thought or question? Karen?
I have a testimonial. Okay. As I mentioned, I used to work with really, more batch-based accounting systems before I started coming to work with QuickBooks. And I banged my head against the wall for the first 6 months with that undeposited funds account. I'm like, why the heck would anyone ever use this account? What is it? Why do we need it? And it didn't make a lot of sense, and it took me a while to figure out why it's there. And then a couple months ago, I saw Seth's undeposited videos session on School of Bookkeeping. I'm like, oh my goodness, I wish I had this when I first started out with QuickBooks, because I couldn't figure it out. And I'm just like, what the heck? He just really boils things down, makes it much easier to understand. So if you're not a member of School of Bookkeeping, I'm a member. I just signed up for another year, and I think it's great.
So I'm going to show you what we're talking about right now. And that is the course. It's 4 lessons, us having a little bit of fun. So you can check that out by clicking on the Students menu in the courses. Thank you so much for that testimonial, Karen. I appreciate it. I am showing the right one, right? Okay, perfect. All right, folks, we are done. And I, again, just want to say thank you to Karen Magno from Transaction Pro. Find her on Abo if you have questions, and be sure to show up tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time. That's noon Eastern Standard Time, snowbirds. So dig yourselves out and get to Seth's Friday morning hangout with our special guest, Finograph.
Oh.
A new course that's coming from schoolofbookkeeping.com, and Seth is giddy about it. So as you continue to build your trusted advisor status as an accounting pro, this is another one, along with Transaction Pro, that can help you earn more money and provide great services to your clients. Thank you so much from schoolofbookkeeping.com, BQE, Transaction Pro, and all my friends. Thank you for being here. Karen Magno, we appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.